We know what happened from March 15th when schools were ordered closed up to now. The issue of learning, what kind of learning are we having? Do we have community-based learning? Are we having distance learning? Are we having e-learning? The KICD rolled out radio and TV programs. To speak to us about this is the Professor George Magoha. He is the Education Cabinet Secretary and also will be joined by the Kenya National Parents Association Chairman, Mr. Nicholas Mayo. I want to start with Professor Magoha. Prof, one of the things that maybe we can say, look back at the country during this time of the pandemic, is that the education sector, which was heavily affected by COVID-19, is actually being headed by a medical doctor. So you understand the impact of a pandemic and the measures that need to be taken. But at the same time, there was about communication of that to the public. What would you say are the main lessons that the Ministry of Education has learned, and what plans do you have for continuity and resumption of education?
Excellencies, Governors, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and High Commissioners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's now in the public domain that the schools were closed in the 20th of March as a result of this pandemic. It is also true that I have a conflict of interest because as a trained physician, I am now tasked with the duty of running the education sector in the country. And therefore, perhaps I understand a little bit more than I should. And this sometimes comes to cloud my mind in the line of duty. Nevertheless, after the government closed schools, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development developed excellent programs which were sent through the TV, radio, YouTube, and other media. The first problem that we developed in this area, or we made in this area, was that we are not able to reach all the children. Adoption of virtual learning in the other centers, especially universities, has had a phenomenal impact because the universities adopted very quickly to increase their abilities to engage in this area. The suspension of face-to-face learning for the basic education sector has been the greatest challenge. And this is because in the wisdom, His Excellency the President had made us implement 100% transition, and therefore all the children in Kenya that should be going to school are actually in school. And I would estimate that they are about 150% instead of being 100%. Therefore, our greatest problem has been the issue of social distancing, which we are dealing with, and which is going to be very difficult to implement. But I think what we must look at as Kenyans is the safety of our children, the safety of the children and the teachers. And the onus is for us to ensure that our parents understand this, because there's a slight disconnect where people think this can be done, and it is our culture, and the culture has come to into play here, where people think that one person called Magoha can shut schools and open schools. I want to make it very clear, Honorable Governors, that we have stakeholders. Education stakeholders put their heads together, and I'm glad that I'm here with my brother Mayo, who is among the many stakeholders that we have. We have infrastructure in schools which require that if we have to comply with COVID-19, we would have challenges. And therefore, there is this group that has been saying, what about examinations? Why have we not just opened schools to allow the student classes, standard 8 and Form 4, to come back to school? The issue of equity and equality comes into play because in the standard 8, we have 1.2 million children waiting to take exams, while in Form 4, we have only 750,000. So I think that we are able to get them to do exams. What then happens to the standard 8, because we don't have capacity for them to go to the next class. Because even if we were to use the capacity for 4, it will be almost 500,000 children less. These are things that must really be understood by one. And then the most important thing that I would want to bring to a point here is that we are dealing with a medical problem. It is not political, it is not a professional problem. And this is a novel virus because even after my 42 years of being a physician, I have never seen a virus like this. Therefore, we must listen to what the physicians are saying. And up to now, the virus has been behaving in a particular manner. And we are starting to see that the incidences are coming down. And this is what we have said all the time, that even though we said we are closed until 2021, it was not cast in iron or concrete. We said it will depend on the behavior of the virus and the information that we get from the Ministry of Health and our state of preparedness. So as we look, I've been observing very carefully, we're just about to hit 5%. It may look like we are flip-flopping. We are not flip-flopping. It is a virus that is flip-flopping. It is not possible for anybody to stand and say that we shall open tomorrow, because those who have tried so have rolled backwards. It's also important to remember that still up to today, more than 100 countries are still completely shut as far as schooling is concerned. So we are moving in a very unfamiliar environment. When people say one should be very specific, I think they are being unfair to both government and everybody else. So as far as we are concerned, we are going to watch. In his wisdom, His Excellency the President has said that we should call an all-inclusive conference where everybody will be there. And we shall look at the post-COVID time together, including the education sector. And therefore, the basic education issues can be discussed there. If by that time, the curve has flattened, then we shall be asking ourselves, is there any reason for us to keep shutting down the schools until 2021? What the country must understand is that we are going to require a lot of resources because all the children must have masks. Some may be able to buy, but between 50 and 60% of the children may not be able to afford to buy the masks. So the government and the benefactors must be prepared now to empower us to get the masks. On the issue of social distancing, it is going to be difficult to achieve. And that is the more reason why we must make sure that all children are masked, and there is a lot of running water, and there's a lot of sanitizers. Ladies and gentlemen, in terms of hand washing, I would want to thank entities like the UNICEF who have been with us and World Bank. But if you are to ask me, as we promote more virtual and blended learning, the greatest constant is going to be the mask. And I would like us to approach this together, because if one expects the national government to buy the masks, it shall require 1 billion shillings. So perhaps if this was decentralized to the counties so that accountability is spread and any other risks that come with decentralization are spread out, and also to ask our colleagues, I'm sure the World Bank people are here, there are other donors, this is actually the time to make the money available. We have created a prototype mask with good material, with the help from the Ministry of Health, and it costs 35 shillings a pair. If we are going to open a little bit earlier, that shall not happen unless we can mask the children. So I think if there's any one point that Your Excellency should take from this reopening, or from this talk, is that we are prepared to get our children back to do exams. It depends on what I've told you. We are also prepared to reopen, depending on what I've told you. And we are also prepared to reclose if there is need to reclose. We have avoided this up to this time. If we are going to bite the bullets in about 3 weeks or so, then the money for the masks should be coming out now from everybody, from the governors, from the donors, and from the national government. So that each child has 2 masks which are washable and which can last at least 6 months. Because if we are unable to provide social distancing, which is going to be a problem, then the children must be properly masked. I want to leave it there unless somebody has any quick question, except to say that we have another stakeholders meeting on the 14th of this month, the education stakeholders meeting. That will have given us another 2 weeks to just look at how the virus is behaving, so that when we go to the bigger meeting, we'll have something concrete to offer. I think, from my point of view, I am very proud that as people make a lot of noise that there are issues about closing pregnancies and what have you, all our children are alive and safe. And that is the bottom line. Maybe I'm opinionated as a doctor, but I think life is more important, far more important than anything else. May I kindly leave it there for the time being, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor George Magoha, the CS for Education. Indeed, just stay right there because we are getting a number of questions coming in from our digital platforms, and we'll be asking you those questions shortly. Nicholas Mayo is